Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to AskCindy this week. Okay, sorry for the 3-minute delay. We had some technical difficulties earlier. But again, welcome to everyone listening, watching. If you're tuning in tonight, let me explain a bit about AskCindy first. So we created AskCindy as an avenue to help founders, entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, gig workers, side hustlers, and anybody in between to help them answer the questions that they have through our own personal experience being part of the Philippine startup community, being an entrepreneur myself, having multiple businesses under our household. Um, I might have learned a thing or two, and we want to share that with you through Ask Cindy. So tonight, every week, we choose a topic that we feel would be relevant. Some of our topics are recommended by our viewers. So this week, our topic is how do you source funds for your business? And it's a never-ending discussion that I always hear among my friends who want to get into business. So if you're tuning in or you're just watching, um, okay, since can you check the audio? No audio. Let's double check. Okay, audio. Hello? No audio. Uh,
Lazada 55 Super Brands Fiesta.
hello?
Enjoy.
How is that? Is that better? Team, tech team, can you check? Looks like it's doing okay. All right, okay na. Okay, cool. So tonight's topic is very, very useful. Um, kung meron na sa inyo nag-isip magnegosyo, one of the things you probably ask yourselves is this: how can I fund my business idea? So let's start off with the basics before we enter or before we answer any question. Bagong lahat, papatayin ko lang yung electric fan. Okay. Okay, ang hirap talaga ng live production. Anyway, okay, so let's start with some basics first. There are three general ways of funding your business, right? Number one is you do a simple friends and family loan, right? Whether it's, well, you can do a loan, but you can do an angel investment from friends and family, but basically sa kanila lang. These are the types of borrowing or investment engagements where you know if crap hits the fan, they're not going to come after you with all their might, right? I mean, obviously, there are varying degrees to this. If nagsanla sila ng gamit para mag-invest sa'yo, then that might be a different case. But generally, friends and family around, ito yung mga parang naawa sila sa'yo kasi walang nag-invest sa business idea mo, so bibigyan ka na ng pera. The other way to do it is through debt financing. So debt financing is where you raise funds for your business through borrowing from established institutions. So you have a gamut of options, no? So number one, pwede ka humiram sa bangko. Ito yung pinaka-safe, I think. Pero I would say pinaka-straightforward. Kaya lang, syempre maraming requirements. So if this is your first time to enter into a business, the likelihood that you'll be given a business loan is not so high. You'll probably end up doing a personal loan first. Unfortunately, medyo mataas interest nun. And then put that into your business. And then as you get traction, saka ka pwede kumuha ng business loan. Another source of debt financing would be institutional lenders. No? Ito yung mga companies like Esquire, First Circle, and a variety of other providers. You do a quick Google search and makikita nyo itong mga to. And then last but not the least is equity financing. So equity financing is where you really source money through your venture capital funds. No? So mga venture capitalists, usually they might be able to structure a debt financing note for you. For example, maybe a convertible note, kunwari, kung saan utang muna siya. But most of the VCs will start off with an equity financing, no? And the reason for this is the earlier the startup is, the more shares their money can buy, right? Because you're very high risk, mababa yung valuation, mataas yung share equivalent ng pera. Siyempre, as you get more traction, the valuation goes up, the share price also goes up, so their money is not able to buy as much versus if you were a very early stage startup, no? So this is why we see VCs really usually invest in at least 50 to 100 startups na early stage. Kasi kahit isa dalawa lang ang maging successful doon, bawi na yung 98 na hindi masyadong gumana, no? Okay, so just wanted to give everybody that basic information. Yung isa pa pala doon, obviously, if you are able, you can bootstrap the company. So that's the fourth and actually the most ideal way to get into a business. No? You bootstrap it. Bootstrap means exactly that. You strap your boots and you march. You do it yourself. So you don't raise external funding. Whatever your money is in the bank, that's what you start with. Just recently, I found out that Calendly, which is something I use a lot. I'm even on the paid subscription. It was bootstrapped for a very long time. Kaya sobrang laki pa rin ng equity holding nung founder kasi nga ang tagal niyang bootstrap. And I think last year lang siya talaga tumanggap ng investment. They were already valued at 100 billion, I think, at that point. No? So grabe, sobrang galing. 1B or 100B, something like that. No? Easily Googleable. Okay, so that's it for the basic information. So why don't we get started with our questions? So the team, if you're watching on All Care Instagram, sorry, if you're watching on Facebook, just ko Tuesday pa lang. If you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or even Kumu, ano yan? Comment if you have additional questions. No, the tech team, our marketing team will be more than happy to take and capture those questions and send them to me so we can discuss them today. Okay. So ayan, so let's go team. What are some questions that we've gotten from our viewers from the past week? Okay, how do I prepare my business for funding? Super good question. And something that not many entrepreneurs ask enough. No. When we want funding, we need to remember that people aren't just going to give us money. Kahit na utang yan, hindi yan basta-basta magpapautang. Lalo na kung VC yan, hindi yan basta-basta mag-aabot ng pera. Meron tinatawag na due diligence, DD, due diligence. No? Whether it's the bank or a VC giving you money, both of them will conduct due diligence. And what usually are they looking for? Yun yung usually tinitignan niya. How prepared are we in terms of operations? Have we met certain traction metrics? Have we met a certain level of product market fit kung saan pwede na tayong sugalan? No? What are some examples of that? Number one, benta. Very simple, di ba? Kamusta na yung benta? Kung may benta, ibig sabihin, somebody out there found your service valuable, that they were willing to exchange your service for money, their hard-earned money. So if you're selling a product or a service, the more revenue you've generated in the past, the better that will appear to your potential funders. No? So that's one. But even before that, I think we have to make a note. The founders or the entrepreneurs themselves are a key component of preparation for funding. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Kahit i-startup yung gagawin mo. Let's say you're going to open up a coffee shop. So technically, hindi na yun ganun ka-startup kasi, di ba, proven na basta maganda yung location, sarap yung kape mo, it's priced right, pupuntahan yung coffee shop mo. Titignan siyempre, sino ba yung may-ari? Diba? Sino may experience ba to sa pagsa-start ng coffee shop? Baka naman wala. Baka hindi tuminom ng kape tapos magsa-start ng coffee shop, di ba? So, tinitignan yung person. If you are starting as a founder, you have a concept that's never been done before. You are literally starting something that's never been done, aka startup. titignan yung track record ng person. What makes this person a good founder? No? Do they come from a background that is aligned to the business opportunity at hand? Kunwari ako, as part of All Care, prior to All Care, I was working in a company called Storm. I was head of business. I was dealing in partnerships. We were evolving and exploring different business executions. So I really knew the benefit space. No? So All Care was sort of an extension and an expansion of that role. Ano pa ba? So yun yung pinakauna. The more early stage you are, the more the due diligence will revolve around the people in the company. Okay? So kunyari, founders kayo, zero revenue or pre-revenue yung tawag, mas kayo ang titignan. So meron ba yung criminal record, di ba? Magtatanong-tanong yung mga VC sa other people in the startup community, kilala niyo ba to? Kunyari, papasok kayo sa food business, tatanungin nila yung mga food startup, kilala niyo ba to? Nakikita niyo ba to sa mga events? Nagpaparamdam ba to? And then from there, they look at your idea, your vision. Pag early stage, titignan yung inyong pitch deck, no? Titignan ano ba yung vision nyo, ano yung concept nyo, what problem are you solving? Is it a big problem? Is it a problem enough that people would be willing to pay money? Kaya nga pagka meron na kayong revenue, pag may benta na, napakagandang validation nun. And again, the more revenue you get, the more validation that is, the less risky it is for your potential funders. No? So, kung ano man yung mga kailangan yung gawin para make sure na efficient kayo, optimized yung inyong operations, hindi kayo bloated, hindi masyadong maraming executives, hindi naman din sobrang namamatay yung mga tao sa trabaho, lalong-lalo na hindi kayo illegal or criminal. Kasi di ba, kung if you're operating outside of the rule of law, guaranteed di kayo mapapandan. And you can hold my word for that. Unless syempre illegal din yung funder nyo, di okay lang, di ba? But institutional lenders, your institutional investors and even VCs, hindi yan magfa-fund ng isang business na ikakapahamak nila. So if you are operating outside of the law, you're not registered, you're not licensed, you're not paying taxes, and you're already making revenue, that's something you need to look into. Okay, so I hope ang haba, pero basta okay na yan. Let's get another question from our team. My network is limited. How and where do I source an investor or group of investors? Okay, I can only share what I have experienced, right? So, maybe 3 important recommendations. No? Okay. Number 1, find mentors that have done it before you. Okay, ano ibig sabihin nun? May mga nauna na sa'yo, di ba? May mga founders na, may mga entrepreneurs na successful, especially in the line of business that you are doing. Endeavor to make connections with those people and get their buy-in. What do I mean? Find a mutual connection there. Make friends, make connections, build relationships with those people. Kasi kung lalo na kung hindi kayo competitor, and lalo kung complementary service kayo, they're very much likely to introduce you to the people that invested in them. Lalo na kung they like you as a person. Kunwari, Kumu founders, Roland and Rexy. I met Roland in an event in Globe. I absolutely enjoy and love the story of Kumu, but we weren't really friends. So in isang event, we got to connect. We shared a quick chat, quick stories about where we came from. He liked what we were doing so much, and I would like to think na nagustuhan din niya ako sa person, na he became a friend. And because he was my friend, he helped me. Okay, so yun yung isa sa mga find people that have done it before you, that are actually good at what they're doing, like fundraising, and then build relationships there, get mentored, and they might just introduce you. So number 1 yan. Ang assumption na mabuti kayong tao. So number 2, attend networking events. So ano yung example nun? There are several entrepreneur communities in the Philippines. There's several organizations that cater and focus to entrepreneurs, right? Uh, there are accelerators around the country. There are startup events. Pwede kayong sumali doon. So, sumali kayo, attend kayo ng event, sumali kayo ng competitions, di ba? So, if you remember if you've known me a number of years now, back in 2018 or 2017, we won the first ever Startup World Cup in the Philippines. We were grand finals. We were grand champions. And there were a lot of investors in that event. And then we flew to San Francisco and then more investors there. So just by winning, one by participating and secondly by winning, doors got open for us. There are several accelerators also in the country. There's QBO, Plug and Play, Startup Village. I know BrainSparks also has a special program in partnership with AIM. As in madami. So hindi kayo mauubusan ng opportunities to actually rub elbows and network with potential angel and early stage investors. Ngayon, I just want to be clear. Magkaiba yung magiging strategy kung startup ka o talagang entrepreneur ka that wants to start a business, no? Yung mga binanggit kong accelerator program competitions, usually those are for startups, no? Kapag entrepreneurs kayo, marami pa ding pwedeng puntahan. So there's Manila Angels Investor Network. Ano yan? Again, going back to number 1, the more people you build relationships with, the more you'll find out what these groups are, the more they can refer you, no? And then number 2, huwag kayong mahiya. Kahit hindi pa hinug yung business concept, kahit hindi pa kayo ganun maraming kliyente, hindi pa kayo naka 1 billion in sales, huwag kayong maghintay. Sumali lang kayo. You never know who you're gonna meet. Third, and probably something that not a lot of entrepreneurs are doing, or at least not as much as they should be, and that's cold outreach. Yes, you heard me right. You can cold email, cold message investors on LinkedIn. If you have a sales background or if you have past sales experience, gamitin mo yan to find investors. Legit ba yun? Yes. Ang dami kong nakilala sa San Francisco, sa Singapore, sa Japan, na start kong kausapin sa LinkedIn lang. Of course, the technique will be important. What you say in those messages will be important. But if you send 1,000 messages and invites to connect and parang elevator pitches on LinkedIn, you're bound to get 1 or 2 replies, right? If mas maganda yung content and strategy mo, yung technique mo, you'll get better than 2 out of 1,000. Trust me on that. But yes, cold outreach, investors, go to their websites, send a message to the contact page, find what their email is, see if they have any ongoing applications for potential startups. Lahat yan pwede nyong gawin. So kahit na walang networking, walang organization na mag-connect sa inyo, that cold outreach can still and will work. Okay, you just have to put in the hours. Okay, so yon. Okay. Okay, I'm considering to get funding through bank loans. What are the pros and cons? Actually, sobrang bilib ako dun sa entrepreneur na kukuha ng bank loan para fundan yung business niya. We have a friend who's based out of Subic Bay. Obviously, we're from Subic. Olonga po. And I heard from another friend na yung mga food franchise nila, and they have a number of the big name franchise, they got through bank loans. And sa akin, parang that's such an interesting thing, no? Because what that tells me is you're really serious about what you want to do. Kasi you're putting your entire self, your credit line on the line. Diba? Because of this business concept. So, ibig sabihin, you're putting yourself in, really, you're backing yourself to a corner. No choice ka na dahil i-involve mo na yung bangko diba? Pwede nilang i-remata yung collateral mo kung hindi ka makapagbayad. So, kung property man yan or whatever it is, no? So, very interesting. But yun din yung cons nun, no? Ang pro is you'll own more of your business, di ba? You'll own all of it if you actually loan the entire amount that you need, and you'll own all of your business. You are not answerable to investors. And for many entrepreneurs, that's a sigh of relief. Yan yung mga pros, no? You are the key decision maker. You don't have to share your decision making process with any investor. So, malaya ka makakakilos ng diskarte mo. So, yung mga pros. Cons lang doon is, syempre, utang yun eh. 'Di ba? And pag sa bangko tayo umutang, we need to accept the fact that the bank needs to get paid. Come hell or high water, they need to get paid because it's somebody else's money that they're lending you with, 'di ba? Um, and so, be prepared for that. Be prepared to have a backup plan to the backup plan. Kasi nga, businesses do fail, right? And that's part of the fun of it. Pero yun lang, I know also a number of people who borrowed money to start a business. And then, syempre, mayroon naman talagang real possibility na hindi mag-click yung business. They go bankrupt, but the bank comes to collect. No? So, let's just be conscious of that. I think yun yung pinakamalaking con. And again, syempre pag may bangko, yun lang, parang medyo kakakaba. Kahit walang investors, for me, mas nakakaba nga yun eh. Kasi investors gets nila na pwedeng hindi mag-work yung business, di ba? Pero sa bangko, kung pinautang ka nila, malamang pumasa ka dun sa nila, sa proseso nila, hahabulin ka talaga. So yun. So, cool. Good luck. If you're thinking about borrowing from the bank, I admire your bravery and your courage. And I pray na maging successful yung business mo para hindi ka balikan ng bangko. Okay. Oh, we have new viewers. Sabi sa akin ng aming creative supervisor. Please welcome the new viewers. Okay. Hello, welcome to our new viewers. If you're watching tonight, our episode is about fundraising for your business, how or why. If you have thoughts or questions about this topic, please make sure to comment. We're live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kumu. And we'd love to interact with you. So just please post a comment or a question or thoughts. Kung gusto nyo debate, okay lang din yun. Okay. Okay ba yun, Ju? Okay, sige. Okay. Is it okay to source funding from family and friends? My favorite question. Kasi parang, very debatable topic. Depende. Like most things, hindi siya ganun kadali sagutin. Hindi siya black and white na yes or no. Is your family very well off? That their surplus wealth, even if kumuha sila ng pangbigay sa'yo and malugi ka completely, magkakaroon ba ng major dent yon in their wealth? Kung hindi, by all means, ask them for investment. Diba? Fundraise from your family. Ideally, family muna. Okay? Kasi family is forever. Diba? Kahit na malugi yung business natin, kapag family mo, hindi ka naman mag-disqualify sa pagiging anak, pagiging kapatid. Diba? Pero syempre, pag family, mas masakit pag nagkapalpakan, di ba? Pagka nagka-problema, medyo mas masakit kasi family yon. So, again, hindi siya yes or no eh. Parang you have to look at the overall situation. And even with friends, no? Are you willing to put that relationship on the line? Are you that confident about your business concept, about your projections, about your forecast, that you're willing to put your relationships on the line? Now, there are naman family and friends that really want to invest in risky or budding enterprises, di ba? By all means, bakit pa nila ibibigay sa mga hindi nila kilala na startup or new business, di ba? Doon na sila kakilala nila. So, ayan eh. For me, talaga, if you come from a wealthy background where you have the privilege of surplus wealth, then by all means, do that. So, in my case, I did not ask investment from my own family. Many of the people I approached for investment were not friends, but eventually became friends. So, yun. So that gives you an idea of what I think about this, right? It's a scary thing. at pwede kayo talaga magkasakitan, pwedeng ma-rupture yung relationship, pwede siyang mawala, no? But at the same time, kunyari yung enterprise na isa-start nyo is something na medyo guaranteed. Ano yung example nun? Utilities, commodities. Kunwari, magtitinda kayo ng bigas. I think, wala nang risk masyado doon, di ba? Kung yung bigas nyo, sariwa, maayos, tamang presyo, accessible sa mga mamimili, guarantee mabibenta yung bigas, di ba? So if you also want to spread the opportunity for wealth, then ideally you start raising from your family and friends, di ba? Kasi kayo-kayo din magtutulungan doon eh. So kung ganun naman ka, no-brainer, kumbaga yung business, at alam mo naman magaling ka, mahusay ka, parang si Lenny, di ba? By all means, pwede tayong I think okay na mag-raise sa family and friends. Pero yung risky enterprises, yung startups, hindi ko yan marirekomenda. Ako mismo hindi ko hiningan yung pamilya ko ng pera. Yan. So, ayan. Una, wala kasi silang pera. Pangalawa, hindi ko rin naman talaga alam kung ano mangyayari sa amin, di ba? Ayoko makunin yung retirement fund dun tatay ko, tapos biglang wala na palang magamit yung dad ko sa groceries niya, di ba? So, yun. So, I hope that was helpful. Okay. Next question. Again, welcome sa ating mga new viewers, sa ating mga listeners. If you're watching for the first time, welcome to AskCindy, where we answer entrepreneurs' questions, thoughts, and concerns through our own experiences. If you want to participate, comment, or ask a question, just type in the comment box. Okay, question. Crowdfunding has been gaining popularity in the US. Do you see this as a viable funding source for startups here in the PH? Great question. I actually met a few of those crowdfunding platforms back in 2019, just before the pandemic. No, I met a few of those platform founders. And sobrang interesting. Pero pinagkaiba natin doon, friends, ay in the United States, they're a first world economy. Literacy, financial literacy is much higher than where we're at in the Philippines. The economy is much stronger. Buying power is much higher. There's actually a lot left to be, they're in their economy. The middle class is so strong that there's seriously going to be, money left at the end of the month for people to actually put in their 401ks or invest in like Kickstarter, diba? In the Philippines, however, we are not in the same boat. And that's just the truth, right? Our poverty level is so high. Financial literacy is also not high. Just this night, I was listening to the news, and our poverty rating, and the strength of the peso has gone down the last few months. So hindi ko pa makita kung ano yung mangyayari doon sa crowdfunding situation na yan. Posible. You can only know that it works when it's done, diba? When somebody starts it and it works out, that's the only time you can say, yes, it worked. But I think the reason, then there are several already, I think, seed something fund, right? Seed box, something like that. I think they are a crowdfunding. Sa marketing team, if you can find that startup that actually is a crowdfunding investment platform, has seed in its name. Why did I not remember that? But please find it so I can say the name right. May ganun na. Pero I also know that only the wealthy folks, or at least those that are in the upper middle class, are participating in those. So di parang ganun din. Parang naghahanap lang tayo ng angel investor, di ba? So the strength of a crowdfunding platform really resides in how many are able and capable to invest in that platform, no? So sa pananaw ko, a strong middle class is the key there. Obviously, if we have a strong middle class, everything above it would be strong, no? And I don't think the Philippines is there yet. Uy, marketing team, wag niyo akong iwan sa ere. Seed in. Tama ba? Teka, seed. Okay, hanapin ko lang. 2 minutes. Bahala na hindi maghanap. Hindi ko na mahanap eh. Basta, meron yan. Okay. Sige. Ayan. Seed box, see? I knew it. I said seed box. Seed in or seed box daw. So, ayan. Check them out if you want to participate in crowdfunding. I think those are the platforms in the Philippines that do it. Okay. So, meron pa tayong question? Oh, meron pa. Other than financial capital, what quality should I look for in an investor? Okay. Nung mas bata ako ng konti, I heard one founder say na parang, tell me that never accept dumb money. And I found those phrases to be quite harsh. But the reality is, meron talaga mga ganun. Yung meron silang pera, pero wala talaga silang value add. Although I guess I wouldn't call it dumb money, no. That's the name that was given to me. But let's just say, don't take non-value adding money if that is an option. And ideally, you've done the 3 things I recommended earlier so that you will have options. Kasi yung investors natin, my friends, they form part of your cap table, right? Lalo na kung equity investment yan. They, equity financing, they form part of your shareholding and your cap table. Now, depending on the level of investments that they are making, some of them will end up becoming your board of directors. Diba? And can you imagine, papatawag ka ng board meeting, meron kang gusto makuhang input from them pero walang nagsasalita. Sana nag-monologue ka na lang, di ba? Sana nag-live ka na lang parang ganito. So ideally, the people around the table are people who care about you, who care about what you're trying to solve, know the problem enough and have inputs on how to solve it. If they're investors that have done something in the field that you're in, perfect. If they're entrepreneurs that you trust, even if adjacent or even non-related industry, that's also good. Kasi they can still give you an unbiased opinion about your decisions as an entrepreneur. Ako, criteria ko when I choose people that I partner with, whether it's investors, personal mentors, board of advisors for the business, I always make sure, number one, I look up to them as people. Yun yung unang-una. Kailangan nire-respeto ko sila bilang tao. No? So kung mataas yung standard mo para sa sarili mo, yun din sana yung standard mo para sa mga taong magiging partner mo. Pangalawa, dapat meron silang value add sa negosyo. Must yun for me. So kunwari, for all care, we've closed around with 500 startups and sobrang useful nung relationship na yon. Kasi invested sila sa napakaraming startups around the world, di ba? So when there's a topic that I need help on, I need their insight on something, they're one of the best people to ask. I have a number of local investors that are firmly rooted in Philippine operations. So meron ding value add sa akin yan, di ba? On top of that, I have a number of investors/advisors that I really keep a good relationship with, that I value their inputs a lot. No? So yun. So that shows you that I would be the type of person na talagang kino-consider yung background, hindi lang yung how much money, how big a check can you write for me. So again, hopefully you're in a position to make a conscious choice kung sino yung mga gusto niyong makapartner. Pero naiintindihan ko rin naman yung ibang entrepreneur na talagang backed into a corner, no choice na but to take non-ideal type of money. Okay lang din naman yun, basta sana wag tayo sa illegal. No? At the end of the day, God can bless anything and everything, but diba, parang it's hard to pray at night when we're doing something illegal. Diba? So that's time check. We have 15 minutes more. Okay. 15 more minutes. Okay. Sobrang gulo ko today. Okay. I'm so confused. Okay. What are business indicators I should look at anticipating needing additional capital? Super good question. And this is a topic about scaling. There's a book that I read. I thought that was useful. I mean, obviously, it's a particular language being about Silicon Valley, but it was written by Reid Hoffman and what's the other guy? Shucks, I forgot. But the title is called Blitzscaling. How parang just be reading that you'll see what are the markers of a scaling company. And when we say scaling, ito yung talagang meron kang moment, ayun, Chris Ye. Yan. So, pagka scaling company ka, nakikita mo nag-grow pero meron kang tension at the hems, no? Kung kunyari, salespeople, nagrereklamo na hindi sila magkanda-ugaga sa pag-process ng benta. Kunyari, manual pa yung process nyo sa pag-handle ng benta, sa pag-activate ng mga bagay-bagay sa service delivery. Kunyari, manual yon. Maraming benta. So talagang nagrereklamo na yung mga employees, need more people. Pero syempre, investing in people, you need capital for that, di ba? Yung paikot ng pera mo, kunwari ROI mo, 6 months pa. Di ba? So, sabihin, kailangan mo ng bridge fund for that. So, yun, those would be examples of how to know that you're ready for funding. Kunwari, hindi ka nagmang-marketing ng kahit ano, pero hitik na hitik yung benta. Ang dami yung nakukuhang inquiries. So much so na parang nakita mo na talagang legit yung potential. Wala ka lang pera pang marketing. So that would be a good opportunity to fundraise also because you need funding to really increase penetration, market penetration. So, kunyari malakas ka sa Manila pero hindi mo pa alam sa ibang areas kasi wala kang pang go-to-market capital, yun yung isang option. Another thing to look at would be automation, tulad kanina. Kanina, Unpower yung example ko, di ba? Pangalawa, marketing. Pwede ding technical or automation systems, automation, operational efficiencies. If you're doing a lot of the things manually, and because of your growth in revenue, your growth in sales, it's creating so much unnecessary stress in the team, then you might want to invest in automation. Pero, again, wala kayong pera pang automate. Hindi kayo makasubscribe to systems online, hindi kayo makasubscribe sa mga tools, intelligent tools to help your day-to-day life. That's also an option. Another one would be, you see that you found product market fit in one market. And nakita nyo may similar market, pwede kayong pasukin. Pero wala kayong pera pampasok doon kasi naubos na doon sa unang market. Pero talagang parang obvious na dapat pumasok kayo doon sa pangalawang market. That's an example. So, for example, if you're strong in Manila and you really feel like, okay, we really need to get into Cebu, but we don't have funding, then that would be a potential trigger for fundraising. No? Kasi hyper urbanized city pareho. You're great in Manila, you might just be great as well in Cebu. So that would be a cause for fundraising. Again, different goals will require different funding needs. If you're about to enter another country, then the funding need will be drastically different than just entering Cebu. Diba? If your service is kunyari web and you really see na there's an uptake, there's adoption, pero it would be so much better, the value, the revenue would be so much better if it were mobile app, technology, efficiency, diba? So that's something that you can also fundraise for. So for us, it's a combination of a number of things that I just mentioned. Ideally, the more things, yung mga yon, that means legit talaga na kailangan nyo ng pera, di ba? Yun talaga, sobrang daming opportunities, hindi na ma-handle kasi kulang tao, new market, may process automation and product development na kailangan gampanan. Tapos, mapakita nyo na yung revenue, tuloy-tuloy. Yun yung mga type ng conversations with VCs or institutional investors na masarap. Kasi parang hindi ka nagmamakaawa. Meron kang ebidensya na you're worth investing in. No? So, yun. Okay, so mabilis lang para sa mga folks that just jumped in, we are talking about how to fundraise or how or when to fundraise for your business. You're watching AskCindy every Tuesday night. 8 p.m. na ba tayo, guys? Final answer ngayon. Yes, okay. So every 8 p.m. at Tuesdays, we do AskCindy. It's a live segment where we talk about topics that are super relevant for entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, startup founders, using our own personal experience. Hindi ako expert. My team, we're not experts, but we just share what we know. No? And if meron kayong gustong i-share, okay din yan. Okay, do we have time for any more questions? What questions should I ask an investor? Okay, super interesting. When I remember many years ago, Peter and I were in Singapore, and we were in a VC meeting. I won't name the VC anymore. Pero nakakatawa. We presented our pitch deck, and then super interested yung VC. Tapos, tinanong niya, how much are you raising? Hindi kami sumagot. Tapos naalala ko, hindi ko maalala kung si Peter o ako. Basta sinabi namin, what do you think is our valuation? Nakakatawa kasi syempre, pinut namin on the spot yung binigay namin yung track record namin, yung revenue numbers namin, ganyan. Then tinanong namin yung investor, how would you value this company? So, that can go, good or bad, yung ganong technique, no? Kasi syempre gusto natin makita kasi ang hirap pag nag-anchor ka, di ba? Pagka sinabi mo, we're valued at a certain amount, for all you know, mababa yun. And then gagamitin na yun ng investor as anchor, di ba? Tapos pababa yung nego. Yung pala, pwede multiple of 10, 15, 20 yung valuation mo, di mo lang alam. So that's one. That's one interesting question. The other one so here are some things that I normally ask investors when I'm meeting with them for the first or second time. Number one, I ask them what their investment philosophy is. Anong ibig sabihin nun? An investment philosophy is what makes that particular VC invest in particular startups? Aligned ba ito sa kanilang mission, vision? Meron ba silang particular sustainable development goal na gustong ma-achieve, di ba? Kaya yung investment philosophy nila aligned doon. Baka naman may personal story yung fund founder na gusto niya talagang maging involved sa segment na to. Because that will give you an inclination kung magpro-progress yung discussion or not. So, kunwari, example, Patamar. Patamar is a venture fund based out of Southeast Asia, and they love investing in impact startups. Those that really impact the society, the communities, diba? Those that uplift the lives of the people of the world. So super nice philosophy. So kung yung startup mo bringing people to outer space, hindi ko alam kung Patamar would be an ideal VC for you. I mean, I don't know. Baka naman may vertical sila for that, di ba? But yun, if you ask about the philosophy of the VC, then you'll get better clarity kung may follow-up date kayo. Madalas may kita nyo na rin yan sa website ng VC or nung funder, no? Kahit na kahit na institutional lender or angel or person niya na mag-i-invest sa inyo, yung personal preferences niya, personal inclinations niya will affect whether or not you guys will end up working together. So that's the first thing I ask. The second thing I ask is, who else have you invested in? That is a super useful question to understand the value that this VC or this investor, this mentor can bring to you. Diba? If they've invested in unicorns, sarap niyan. Kasi ibig sabihin may matututunan ka talaga. Pero kung ikaw yung una nilang i-investan, okay lang. Basta take note nyo yun na yung experiences na ibibigay nila sa inyo would not be aligned to what you might necessarily need. Diba? Yun. And then the other question I ask is what your typical investment size is and what the process would look like. Different lenders, funders, VCs would have different processes depending on the kind of investments they make. Some VCs will only invest in early stage. Small check sizes, maybe 500,000 or less. Maybe $1 million or less, diba? Super, super early stage. Ibig sabihin, hindi masyadong complicated yung due diligence nun. They'll probably write a 100, 200,000 peso, $200,000 check, pero 10, 20 kayo, 50 kayong bibigyan yan. Hindi ka special child. Pag growth stage fund or mid-stage fund, late-stage fund, yung mga yan, mas malaki yung check sizes, pero mas grabe yung due diligence niyan. Talagang para kayong dadaan sa butas ng karayom, no? So yun, kailangan mong alamin yun. Kasi baka naman, sa simula pa lang, kunyari, I remember speaking with Open Space Ventures, I think 6 months ago, diba? And we were talking about working together. But apparently, masyadong maliit yung nire-raise namin at the time for open space to participate. So, just knowing that will already give you an inkling, okay, sinong hindi pwede this round? If ever lumaki pa tayo and we need money, sinong pwede? No? So, those are the common questions that, and then ano yung programs nila for their founders or for their investees. May mga learning programs ba? May training ba? May community ba? May Slack group ba kayo? Viber group? WhatsApp group? Para magkakilanlan yung iba-ibang founders, di ba? So, useful din yun. So, those are the 4-5 questions that I ask. So, I hope that you guys take note of that para magamit nyo in your future fundraising activities. Maybe one last question before we wrap it all up. I want to scale quickly through investor funding, but my apprehension is that I'd lose autonomy on the brand I'm building. Have you experienced this and how did you manage it? Okay, break down natin to ng konti. Can you keep the question just on the screen? Thank you, sir. So number one, yung brand. Baguhin natin ng konti yung notion natin. No? Ang tunay na sukatan ng brand is what your customers say about you. So, maybe the autonomy you really want is in the product side, diba? In the way that your service is delivered, and hopefully the brand that is built around that is an amazing one, diba? So okay yun. But yun, parang brand is really what the customers say about us, not what we say customers say about us. So very important na. And madalas naman, yung mga founders na kilala ko na talagang nagkaka-struggle or tension with this is because they want to develop the product a certain way. They have a product roadmap, a business roadmap that's quite different than what the investors have in mind. It's not really about the brand, but really the product, diba? The markets that they want to enter. Usually doon nagkaka-tension, nagkaka-friction. So, okay, have I ever experienced that? I would say to some extent, yes. Especially in the earlier stages of all care, especially when we were, we were really an idea in Centerpoint, no? Common yun, especially at early stage startups kasi, syempre, maaga nagpasok ng pera yung investor, medyo high risk, di ba? So, gusto nila magbigay ng opinion nila, lalo na wala ka pa namang patunayan. So, common naman yun. Pero I think, if you know the lean methodology, diba? Yung iteration process, and step by step you involve your investors in showing them where you're headed, and ano yung improvements, ano yung increases in revenue, ano yung adoption na nakukuha nyo by making those small improvements, diba? You make those transparent to the investors will naturally start to trust your instinct. Lalo na kung yung iterative process natin is backed by user research, di ba? Di ba yung lean model, meron siyang feedback loop, di ba? So kung very serious tayo about developing the product the way that we want to, we need to show our investors our plan. We need to show how we're executing the plan. We need to show improvements, the results that we are getting from those decisions, and then that it's also customer-led. Diba? The feedback is customer-led. Papakita natin sa kanila yon and maging transparent tayo. Para sa akin, mas maganda maging transparent para makita nila yung thought process kung saan mo gustong dalhin yung negosyo. Madalas nagkakaroon ng friction kapag hindi klaro yung founder and wala siyang naipapakitang evidence, no, of why he or she wants to take it a certain direction. In my case, my investors now in All Care, I've had the pleasure, also, importante dito yung pagpili mo ng investor, di ba? Kung sa simula pa lang, nag-eye to eye, nag-meet na kayo eye to eye in terms of what this company will really be solving, how it's going to solve things, and where you're headed at, then that friction is minimized as you go forward. But then, that's not always the case. Sometimes people develop a certain appetite for tension and debates. Okay lang yun. So for me, in my current situation, thankfully, God has really helped me find people that are one, believers of our vision, believers of my vision, parang believers of what we want to do as a team. And secondly, parang because we work in the future of work space, di ba, sa all care, um, maraming unknowns. So we use data, we use customer research, customer feedback, non-customer feedback to really guide our decision making, and we share that with our investors. So madalas pag brainstorming, pag discussion, pag board meeting, dumarating kami sa point na medyo, okay, gets. Sige, gawin natin yan. Try natin yan 6 months and then let's see after, no? Um, I don't want to promote the idea that investors are parang kalaban or investors are hassle. I don't believe that. I mean, there are many ways to not end up resenting your investors. So this is why we do Ask Cindy, di ba? Whatever lessons we've learned, we want to share that so you don't have to deal with those mistakes if and when they do come to you, or those experiences. So yeah. So uh, those are my and at the end of the day, if hindi mo sila makontrol in a group setting, spend time with your investors, your advisors, spend time with them one-on-one, and then show them why you think this is the way forward. No, you must have a logical explanation in your mind, right? You must have empirical evidence. You must be seeing something that they're not seeing. Show them, explain it to them, spend time with them, build relationship with them. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, so thanks, Julian, for leaving the question up on the screen. Again, friends, thank you so much for staying, for tuning in to Ask Cindy tonight. In this episode, we talked about how and when to fundraise and some of the triggers that you need to watch out for in preparation for fundraising. We want to remind you that Ask Cindy is a live segment we do every Tuesday on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kumu, where we take wannabe entrepreneurs, inspiring and founders, and those who want to be founders. Um, we take the thoughts that they have, the questions that they might have, and we try to answer it and share our experiences on these topics, so that we can help each other. Ask Cindy is powered by All Care. All Care is the country's first and only digital benefits platform in the Philippines, where startups, small businesses, agencies, solopreneurs, and gig workers can get benefits simply by buying a membership in All Care. You get life insurance, health insurance, a birthday cake, optical care, telehealth, and a bunch of other mental wellness, of course, and a bunch of other cool things, all within your plan for the price of one and the implementation of single time activation only. Okay, so if you want to know more about All Care, just head on to www.allcare.ph, or if you're watching us, you're probably in one of our channels. You also can explore through those social media platforms. Um, I also run a consulting practice, which I absolutely enjoy doing, where we help startups and enterprises really grow and scale through effective revenue operations, streamlining sales and marketing. That's BT Partners. So if you happen to want to read our blogs, go to www.btpartners-asia.com. Read our blogs, read our commentaries there about how businesses can scale. Okay. For our next episode, stay tuned on our social media channels. We'll announce the topic. And again, if the topic's announced, feel free to comment your own questions, your own thoughts, so that we can include that in the next episode. Next episode is next Tuesday at 8 p.m. So again, friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope we shared something useful and relevant to you. If wala, okay lang. At least nakapag-bonding tayo kahit virtual. If you want to send an email, it's cindy@allcare.io, or add me on LinkedIn or on Facebook or Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be happy to connect with you. Till next time, next Tuesday, Ask Cindy. Bye-bye.